Good morning. Morning, all those that are on the platform.
Want hy ry die tak?
Colleagues, good morning. According to my watch, it's 10 o'clock. And
recording in progress.
I think in the light of time, let us start. If I can just find out from Mardia, we do co-rate Mardia. All right, I do not see Mardia on the platform. Let me just have a look before we carry on. Can somebody please enlighten me as to who stands in if Mardia is not there? I see there's a Bulelowa that's a co-host, and a Zazipu that's a co-host. And select committee. Colleagues, just give me an opportunity to phone Mardia to find out where she is. One moment, please. Colleagues, sorry about that. Mardia is on the platform. The select committee host is hers, but for some or other reason, she seems to be having a sound problem. Whilst we sort that out, let us carry on. I see we do co-rate, and that's all in order then. Then I would just like to speak to the agenda. We are having the AG presenting to us tomorrow. If I can ask somebody from the AG's office to indicate who will be taking over with regard to the presentation, and so that we can start, because our program is rather full. Over to the AG's office, please. Thank you. Sorry, before we go, any apology? Oh, well, I'll have to do that at the end of the session, because Mardia is not able to speak at this point in time. AG, if you can take over, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning to the honourable members. Good morning to everybody in the platform. My name is Zamahlangu Mditwa. I am the Deputy Business Unit Leader in the Office of the Auditor-General, Chairperson. So I will be leading. I have my colleagues, Bulelwa Sikweya, who is the auditor that's responsible, the senior manager that's responsible for the audit of the compensation fund. She's also overseeing the audit of the Employment and Labour Department. And then also I have Zizipo Makalima, who is part of our stakeholder liaison office. So that's the team from the Auditor General, Chairperson. Not sure, Chair, if we are already going into it, or you just wanted to check who is going to be taking you through the presentation for the Auditor General.
No, please carry on, because you've given us the indication of who is doing what on which section on the E&L AG's report. So the floor is yours. Thank you very much. And just please bear in mind, I know it's short, but 45 minutes for the presentation. Thank you. Because the members were meant to read everything. Thank you.
Great. No, thank you very much, Chairperson. So yes, so we'll just go straight into it. So Bulela's going to take us through the presentation, Chair. I know the invitation we received was specifically talking, initially it was to on separate days for the compensation fund for the 23-24 financial year, and then also the Department of Employment and Labor. But then we requested that we just have one joint session. And what we sent through as a pack is literally the entire portfolio of employment and labor. So it will also be including the audit outcomes of the other entities that are in the portfolio. But I know that based on the invite, the committee would have been specifically interested in the compensation fund and the employment and labor. So that's where maybe we'll place more focus on in our presentation. But I think that the committee would have an opportunity to look at their whole portfolio in totality in terms of the audit outcomes. Chair, if maybe just going through the first two slides, if you just go to slide 2. Just, I know we've had an engagement with the committee in the previous session.
Sorry,
yes, Chair?
just hold on a second. I don't know if it's on my side, but you keep breaking up, or whether it's on your side. Can I just determine from the members on the platform whether they can hear the presenter? If somebody can just respond, please.
Chair, from my side, I can hear the presenter. Honorable Mabilo, I think the presenter from my side is audible.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Mabilo. So it's on my side. You can carry on, AG. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So, but I think for purposes of also the committee, I think maybe now that I've introduced myself and you would have seen my face, so that the committee knows that they're not talking to a robot, I'll just switch off my camera. So hopefully it's going to assist everybody in terms of bandwidth. So I'm just going to switch off my camera, but continue. But I just wanted to touch on the first two slides, and then Bulelo's going to take us through the rest of the presentation. But just emphasizing, Chair, I know we've had the engagement where the AG was actually taking us through the office in terms of our mission, what the key things that we focus on. We just, in all our presentation, we always emphasize or bring to the attention in terms of what is our mission, in terms of us as an office. And it is predominantly to strengthen our country's democracy by enabling oversight, accountability, and governance in the public sector through the work that we do in terms of auditing. And then ultimately, the ultimate goal is that we are building public confidence. So in us engaging committees like yourselves, which is the highest structure in terms of government accountability, we have that the objective of enabling the oversight by providing you with the insights from the work that we'll be doing through the different entities that we look at, that ultimately the relevant accountability at all different stakeholders can actually take place. So that's basically why we actually even have the always look forward to having the engagements with yourselves, so that we can provide you with the relevant insights, so that the relevant accountability can happen at all the different structures within the different organizations that we look at. If we move to the next slide, Chair, which just speaks to the accountability ecosystem. Again, one of the slides that you would have already be familiar with, because it would have already been structured, but we always have to emphasize this particular slide.
Sorry, I can't.
We always emphasize this particular slide mainly because of the importance of the accountability ecosystem in the different organizations that we look at, starting from the officials and up to the executive authority of that particular organization. So the importance of making sure that everybody within the accountability ecosystem is doing their part in making sure that they execute their responsibility, so that the next level would not necessarily be having to carry the weight of another level. In making sure that everybody is playing their part, the whole ecosystem functions properly. So from the officials to the executive authority to the different structures that are there, whether it be the internal audit, which are actually the different assurance bodies, your internal audit and audit committee, up to the support and oversight layers, which would be your executive leadership, the coordinating institutions, parliament, the different structures and committees within parliament. So the importance that everybody has a role to play in this whole ecosystem, and the importance of making sure that everybody does their part, so that there is just that unity and making sure that everybody, and ultimately the goal is that if all of these role players are actually doing their part, the people that are going to feel the benefit of everything working together would be the South African citizens. Because if everyone is doing their part, ultimately service delivery will take place, and then that will now improve the lived reality of the South African citizens. Hence, it's always important that whenever we even start with any engagement, when we're looking at the different institutions, it's important that we always look into the accountability ecosystem. It will also assist in terms of accountability. Even when there's a need for consequence management, it's important that there's an understanding of the ecosystem, so that it's easy to identify where the gap is, so that accountability can happen at the different areas that would have been identified. So I think that's why we always start with the engagement, with having emphasized the importance of the accountability ecosystem. But the next few slides, the next slide, I think the next one Bulelwa is going to start on, because we're now going to be looking at the ecosystem of the employment and labor portfolio, and then now take you through the what we have identified in the entity, whether it be compensation fund or the department or the entities that are sitting in the portfolio. So through you, Chair, if I can just hand over to Bulelwa to take us through the presentation, and then we can take comments from the committee. With your permission, Chair, if I can just hand over to Bulelwa.
Yes, please carry on.
Thank you, Zama. Good morning, Honorable Chair, honorable members, and everyone that is on the platform. Thanks, Zama, for the introductions. Chair, my slide that I'm presenting right now is directly linked to what Zama has just presented. So this is just then to show how the ecosystem applies to the labor portfolio in particular. So we are showing the different auditees, starting with the department, and then on all its entities, and where they fit in and with their different roles. And the key thing that we want to communicate with this slide is that for the portfolio to move forward, we need each and every entity or auditee within this portfolio to do their part. And that means within the individual entities, most importantly, each official from implementation level to accountability to oversight, each level, each individual that occupies a position in each and every level must do their part, so that we are able to see an improvement in the outcomes that we'll be communicating as well as we go through. With that said, I will then move on to the outcomes. Just before I communicate them, I present the outcomes for the 23-24 financial year. I will just start by taking you a step back, Chair, in terms of highlighting the recommendations that we would have made in the previous year. Some of these recommendations, I'd like to highlight that they were actually not being made for the first time in 2022-23. They are coming from previous years, but we are noticing that there is just slow movement in terms of the implementation. One area that we recommended was that there must be a comprehensive system for managing consequence management and poor performance across the portfolio. You will see as we go through the presentations that there are serious instances where consequence management is not being implemented, and that also affects the audit outcomes that we'll be presenting, because we continue raising non-compliance in that regard. We also made a recommendation with regards to the entities, that is the CF and the department as well, in terms of resolving the material irregularities. We'll see when we go to the 23-24, we've also added UIF now, because we've identified some material irregularities there. But the key issue around material irregularities relates to the actions that are not being taken to resolve those. Where actions are being taken as well, it takes a very long time for the accounting authorities or officers to address those material irregularities. And most importantly, what is done to improve the controls in the environment does not seem to be adequate because we continue to see similar instances even after we have raised the material irregularities. So hence we are recommending that there must be very close monitoring of the actions that are planned or are being taken by the accounting officers or authorities in terms of resolving these material irregularities. We also made recommendations relating to investigations, which is also linked to the consequence management, because we've noted instances across the portfolio where there will be a fruitless and wasteful expenditure incurred or irregular expenditure incurred, or any allegations of misconduct that are reported or are flagged. However, investigations are either taking time to be started or those that have been initiated are not concluded timeously, which then delays the process in terms of concluding the investigations and making sure that there's consequence management where it is necessary. And that also then promotes a culture where there is no accountability, because where people have done wrongdoing, there are no consequences, nothing happens. So people don't have to be held accountable for what they have done wrong. We also made recommendations with regard to the submission of the financial statements. This was coming from a period where UIF and the compensation fund were not able to submit financial statements by 31st May of each year for the previous years. We've noted some improvement in that CF was able to submit on time this year. However, we still have concerns, serious concerns when it comes to the reliability of the financial statements as well as the performance reports that were submitted. On the other hand, UIF was still not able to submit. Hence, you'll see that the legend there is a yellow is in progress because something has been done in terms of CF. Then we also made a recommendation with regards to the performance. This was also meant to improve the culture within the organizations, to improve the control environment so that actually people take responsibility for the breakdown in controls that we keep reporting. So our recommendation was that the performance agreements of managers that hold key responsibilities or key positions should be aligned to the improvement of the control environment. That will make sure that people are actually have to answer for the control breakdowns that are in their space. That was particularly raised for UIF and the compensation fund. And lastly, we highlighted that there is a need for some focus to be put on or placed on the investigation of the material irregularities, the irregular expenditure, as well as the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, because they will then also make sure that the controls are improved and these losses that are being incurred by the portfolio are prevented. In summary, when we come to where we are, I've touched on most of the things to say we are still seeing similar instances in the current year as well. As I'm going through the presentation, it will become clear. We still have issues with regards to consequence management, which is why we are saying that recommendation has not been implemented. In terms of the material irregularities, we are still identifying new MIs. Others are similar to the ones that we had raised, which shows that the actions that are being taken are not preventing our subsequent MIs from occurring. So something needs to be done there. UIF submitted the financial statements, but they submitted late again. They submitted at the end of August, so we are currently busy with the audit. Therefore, there still needs to be a commitment from the entity side to make sure that going forward, they will be able to submit reliable financial statements within the legislated timeline. This slide just highlights then the picture in terms of the whole portfolio of what the audit outcomes were over the years, including the current year. Just to note is that the UIF, as I indicated, the audit is still in progress. Therefore, it will not be part of the summary outcomes that I'll be presenting. I will touch on it separately just for the committee to get a sense of what the outcomes were for 22-23. Overall, we are seeing that we only have 2 entities that are doing well within the portfolio, with CCMA being able to sustain the keen audit outcomes for the 3rd time now this year, which is 23-24, and being joined by NEDLEC with the keen audit for the first time over at least the 5 years that we're presenting here. And we commend these entities for doing well in that area. But moving on to the unqualified with findings now, you can see that the number has gone down because previously at the start of the administrative term, we had CCMA sitting in the yellow as well. We had NEDLEC sitting in that yellow, but they've improved. However, the department has remained in that category. And when you look at what is leading to that for the department, it's mainly the one is compliance. They continue to have similar compliance findings, same areas, they are not being addressed. We also have instances where we identify material misstatements in their financial statements. However, they are able to correct them after they are raised. Hence, you won't see them being qualified or adverse or disclaimed. That is their main area. On AOPO, they are doing better than the compliance as well as the financial statements because in some of the programs, there were no material misstatements, and where they were able to correct as well. So which is what is affecting this column. Then moving to we don't have any qualified audits. The qualified audits that were there at the beginning of the admin term, it was SEE as well as UIF. UIF is now outstanding. SEE has regressed since last year, moving to the adverse opinion. The main thing that is really causing that audit outcome for SEE is their struggle in terms of accounting for cost of sales and inventory, as well as the receivables that are linked to that. That whole cycle, they are basically struggling with reconciling those and supporting the rates that they are using to determine the value of the cost of sales and the inventory. In the main, that is the main reason. They have other misstatements in other areas, but at the core, the things that have been coming up every year, they are around receivables, inventory, and cost of sales. Then under disclaimer, we have the compensation fund, which has been disclaimed for a number of years now. And there are issues cut across. They are on compliance, they are on the financial statements, they are on performance information. So there is no area where we can really say they've mastered the art of either reporting correctly or supporting what they've reported. Overall, in summary, then, Chair, we are seeing a stagnation and regressions in some instances, except, of course, for the CCMA and the NEDLEC, which are giving us a better picture when it comes to the portfolio. And the main thing here that we are concerned about is that none of these issues are new. For all the entities, CF, UIF, and SEE, we have not raised any new issues that are affecting the audit opinion. In the main, all those things have been communicated for years. For CF in particular, they've been in a disclaimer for about 13 years now. SEE, this is the third year they are in adverse. They've been qualified for more than 5 years. And the issues are not new. So we are urging all the role players in the ecosystem to make sure that they address these issues and make sure that we improve so that we can then see a better picture, moving some of the auditees to the green and some to the yellow, where there are still issues that need to be attended to. And in addition, we also have concerns when it comes to the ICT. So it is important that the portfolio also pays attention in terms of that area. I will touch more on it as I go, because we know that the biggest auditees within the portfolio, which is the department with the UIF and CF, they are highly dependent on ICT infrastructure. So there is a need to make sure that anything IT, with it, be it is the IT projects, be it is the IT controls, everything that relates to that space is monitored closely to make sure that it supports the goals of these auditees to make sure that they deliver. And in the main, another thing we want to highlight is that the culture within the portfolio, with the exception of the 2 auditees, seems to be that is not promoting performance. As I've indicated, we raise the same issues over and over, but nothing is being done, or there's low implementation. Consequence management is not being implemented. Therefore, we continue to see the same trend. So there is a need for the culture to be relooked at to make sure that we actually improve the culture, because the issues that we are raising are not isolated. They cut across different portfolios, different units within the organization. It then shows that there isn't just one breakdown in controls. It's linked to the whole cycle within the audit team. I will just then zoom in on CF and UIF in the next 2 to 3 slides, just starting with the compensation fund. Where do I start? See, compensation fund, I've indicated that we've had a disclaimer for about 13 years now. And mainly the disclaimer, what it means is that we got financial statements, but we could not support what is reported there. Therefore, we don't know whether those figures are correct or not. We are not even able to say you should have put 1 million here instead of a 10 million because we don't even know where the million came from. So that's basically what it meant. So we've been reporting these qualifications and these disclaimers. And if you look at the current year's audit report, CF has about 14 paragraphs in the audit report where we are saying we could not audit, we could not audit, we could not audit. But those 14 paragraphs also affect other areas in the financial statement. So the limitation basically is bigger than the 14 paragraphs. After that, we also realized that because we've been raising this disclaimer and nothing is being done, we also changed our approach in a bit. So we did more work, notwithstanding the fact that, sorry about that, I just had a glitch a bit. Notwithstanding the fact that we've issued a disclaimer on the financial statement, we continue to use the data that was provided by management, which was coming from the systems that they are using. Some of it was presented in the financial statements. Just to unpack what is underlying this disclaimer. We did an analysis that related to the benefits, investments, and revenue management. And in the main, what we pegged in addition to the disclaimer is that the fund, in terms of achieving its targets, they are not doing very well because they are underspending on the budget that relates to benefit payments, and the expenditure is actually showing a downward trend right now, which is a concern because that is their core. The main reason they exist is to make sure that they compensate those employees when they are injured at work. We also performed a test where we compared the banking details of the service providers or the medical service providers that are sitting on the fund system, as well as the banking details that were actually used to make the payments by the bank. And we noted that there are many instances where the account details that are sitting in the bank statement, meaning the person who's actually received the money has a different account from the one that the fund has on their system, which then highlights a potential or possible fraud to say the banking details might have been fraudulently changed because now what the fund has as recorded and supported is not where the money actually went. We also noticed that there are instances where one medical service provider would be paid using different bank accounts, which have also flagged to management to say that might indicate fraud as well because it's unlikely that one medical service provider will submit 10 banking details to be paid for payments to be made for one claim. So we've highlighted those to management so that there can be further investigations. We also noted that there were some changes that were made to banking details, and the most concerning thing is that when we analyze this, we are unable to identify the users, meaning the logs are not there. Because ordinarily, when you log onto the system, whether it's just logging in and you are amending something, the system is supposed to record a log. But we noted that with CF, when you try to trace this to identify who the user was, we are unable to do so because there are no logs, which also increases the risk of fraud. We also noted that some instances where we are able to identify the users are actually denying that they made changes, which also highlight that there are certain control deficiencies in terms of the user management where people are able to possibly use other people's login details to make these changes. And there were instances where some of the changes could not be supported. Therefore, we're unable to say whether these changes were actually valid changes or they were fraudulent changes. And also relating to the medical payments, we also had instances where there were delays in the payments, and some of these late payments have actually now led to fruitless and wasteful expenditure because the fund will be taken to court, and in many instances, they lose the case and end up having to pay interest as well as some legal costs. When it comes to the reliability of the data now, we had a few concerns regarding the accuracy of the calculations for different reasons. You'll find that in some instances, different incorrect rates are being used. adjustments that were not supposed to be made are being made, and there's lack of adequate verification of what is being paid versus what was supposed to be paid based on the supporting documents. So overall, we've highlighted a number of weaknesses in this area, Chair and members, that management needs to attend to, which will then lead to improved performance, even not just on the financial statements, but in terms of service delivery as well. On investment, we also did an analysis just to see what the fund is making out of the investments that they've made, and in particular, the unlisted funds. We've, however, noted that these funds, these investments are not yielding the desired outcomes, in that there are losses that are being incurred. And some of these investments were actually impaired to zero in the current year, in the 23-24 by the fund, because there's no return that is expected from them. And the cost of those is the 287 million. Then on revenue management, similar to the benefits, we also did some analysis there. The key issues in summary related to collection of revenue. The fund is not doing enough to collect what is due to them. We have instances where employers are not assessed and billed, meaning the revenue is not collected. We have instances where there are no processes in place to ensure that all the employers are actually registered, those that are supposed to register. We also noted that you'll see instances where the fund is paying claims, rightfully so, to employers who are claiming, to employees rather, that are claiming, but you find that the employers of those employees are actually owing the fund. So we are urging the fund to make sure that they collect the money that is due. While they are meeting their mandate in terms of paying the claims, it is also important to collect what is due from the relative employers, so that they are not losing funds in the process. We also noted with concern that of the revenue that is recorded, a biggest portion of it is actually not cash that is actually received by the fund. It is revenue on paper. However, the 94% of that amount is sitting as a receivable. And the biggest portion of it is now being assessed for impairment, meaning there's a possibility of it not being collected, which might result in a loss for the fund in the long run. And lastly, we noted that there are some records, there's some accounts that are reported as being receivable to the value of 483 million. But when we searched those companies against the CIPC database, we noted that these companies are actually in the process of being deregistered. Some are being dissolved, some are being liquidated, which then again raises a risk for the fund to say they might not be able to collect that money. So we might be seeing a loss in the future, should those that process be finalized and the fund will not be able to recover the funds. That is the picture for the compensation fund, Chair and members. And in summary, the key things that we want to bring to your attention as the underlying, apart from the lack of records that we've been highlighting, is that there are inadequate controls within the fund, all areas, across all key business areas, performance, everything, both ICT as well as the manual controls, where now somebody has to verify that is not being adequately done. We're also highlighting that the investigations that are not being done on time or finalized on time are actually leading to more losses for the fund, because you find that something was raised years ago, resulted in a loss, but every year you see similar instances still happening because the issues are not being investigated and addressed in terms of the controls. We're also highlighting that the organizational culture at CF does not promote integrity, performance, accountability, and transparency, and therefore there is a need for the environment to be reviewed in totality. This has nothing to do with a specific area or a specific internal control. There's just a total breakdown of controls within the environment itself. I will not go into detail on this slide, Chair and members, because it's just a summary of everything that I've highlighted. So if one just want to have a glance of the key things that they need to pick relating to CF, this is the slide to go to as well. But now moving on to UIF, I'll just highlight the 22-23 key issues that led to the outcome that is a qualified opinion for the UIF. these just the areas. I will not go into detail as well on this one, but the main thing is that they also have similar issues when it comes to benefit payments, where they don't have supporting documents for certain things. And what to note is that most of their problems are linked to TERS. So they have not been able to support some of the payments that were made since the time of COVID. On investments, it's similar issues as CF, where they are not able to get the returns that they aim for in terms of the investments, as well. There are issues when it comes to the reliability of the data that they use to value the funds and report on them. Therefore, we keep having misstatements in the financial statements. When it comes to prepayments, the main issue is the classification, where things that are not longer prepayments are still recorded as prepayments. And in other instances, these prepayments are recorded in incorrect years. You find that it relates to the previous year, however, it is recorded in the current year. Then in terms of contingencies, the main thing was the supporting evidence for what was disclosed. And then cash flow, we had errors that we noted there. But if the fund can just attend to those areas, they should be able to get out of the qualification. From here, I will just then go through the detail in terms of the audit outcome. I will try to be brief, keeping in mind that the allocated time here. Then here, Chair, we're just highlighting, if you see this picture, is supporting everything that I've said. If you look at the light blue, which is the good, you will see CCMA and Nedlake featuring strongly there because they have managed to implement controls in all areas. Hence, they have the outcomes that they have. With labor, we see that the only struggle they have is the in-year and year-end reporting. And this, we are saying this because if you look at the issues they have in the financial statements, they are mainly disclosures. But what is concerning is that every year we are raising the same thing as well for them. They've always struggled with disclosures, and which means that there's something they are doing wrong with their year-end reporting. So they need to attend to that and not rely on the audit process to identify issues for them to correct. Then for SEE and CF, we are seeing a picture that is very red because, like I indicated, the controls that are not working across all platforms. I will start with the SEE now, just briefly to say, SEE, they struggle with the quality of their financial statements in general. They have many issues. As much as in the audit reports, they only had 5 key areas that we highlighted, but there were other misstatements that they corrected, but they could not correct all of them. Hence, you will see that they are still red even after the audit. And the control deficiencies were in all areas. Then CF, similar thing. The main thing though for CF, the difference is that CF can't even support what they've reported. SEE is adverse because they are able to give you evidence, then it enables us to say what the misstatement is. But with CF, it's the opposite. They can't support. Hence, we are disclaiming in those areas. And this has a direct impact on how they are performing in terms of performance as well, performance information. Coming to the annual performance report and service delivery, CCMA, Nedlake, and SEE submitted annual performance reports that did not have misstatements, but CF and Labor had some misstatements in their annual performance reports. Labor was able to correct, hence they did not have material findings in the audit report. However, again, they also need to not rely on the audit process to identify issues. They need to be proactive in terms of reviewing their reports against supporting documents to make sure that they end up in the green even before the audit. With CF, it's a bit different in that we had a limitation. One, because the listings could not agree to what was reported in the annual performance report. But in addition to that, most of their key targets are linked to the data that is reported in the financial statement. So the more they are not addressing the issues under the financial reporting, that will also always impact on their performance information. We also had a few instances where the targets were not well defined and the source documents that are used for report, to measure the achievements were not adequately defined, but in the main, it is the issue of the limitation that they need to attend to. When it comes to compliance, CCMA and NEDLEC again did not have any instances, but for CF, SE, and Labour, we had material non-compliance, which is also impacting on the audit opinion. And the most common areas is the procurement and contract management, which we had for Labour and CF. Financial statements we had for all three, hence the opinions are not favorable. For irregular as well as fruitless and wasteful expenditure, all three entities and the department had material non-compliances there, as well as consequence management. It cuts across as well. And in terms of the irregular expenditure, just to take you through more detail now, as you can see, this is the annual irregular expenditure that is reported in the annual reports and financial statements of these auditees. We can see as much as the figure has gone down in 23-24, it is concerning that they still incurring a very high amount of irregular expenditure, which is also a non-compliance, but the main contributor there is the department itself, followed by the compensation fund and followed by SEE. NEDLEC and CCMA are doing better in that area as well. Then fruitless and wasteful expenditure, we noted a significant decrease there in terms of the figure that was incurred in the current year. However, just to highlight, for CF in particular, we have actually included a paragraph in the audit report relating to the completeness of fruitless and wasteful expenditure. So meaning that 2.6 million might be more if CF can finalize the investigations that of the instances that they've reported as material losses and actually move the figures to where they're supposed to be in the financial statement. But as it stands, the biggest contributor on the 2.6 is SEE. And also it's not a new issue. They've always had this issue where they lose inventory. So they can't account for inventory. You'll find that they've made sales, but inventory has left the entity but does not reach the customer and they're unable to account for it, then they would write it off as fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Just zooming into the consequence management again, which is a bigger problem in terms of the portfolio. Here we are just showing the two slides. This one is irregular, the next one is a similar slide, but it will be on fruitless. We are trying to show that what is this impact that we're talking about of this consequence management and why do we end up with that paragraph that we keep putting in the audit reports. As you can see, the portfolio over the years, the irregular expenditure closing balance has remained very high. It has actually increased even more in the current year. We are sitting with 800 million. And when we analyze further, we analyzed the 22-23 closing balance to see what has the portfolio done to address those things. Because that's where consequence management is coming in to say, once you've identified, you're supposed to take steps and make sure that you've dealt with that amount. And we have noticed that actually 99% of that 212 that we reported last year has not been dealt with. So similar to the 873, 99% of that has not been dealt with. And the biggest contributors there is the department as well as the compensation fund. So we will continue to have the findings on consequence management until such instances are addressed. We have a similar picture again on the fruitless and wasteful expenditure. 99% has not been dealt with, and the biggest contributors are compensation fund and the department. Then just to touch on the material irregularities for the portfolio, we have identified 9 material irregularities to date within the portfolio. 5 of them relate to the compensation fund, 3 of them relate to the UIF, and 1 relates to the department. From the UCF side, we have 1 that has been resolved, which is a good thing, but there's more that need to be resolved and the funds need to be recovered. To date, the portfolio, CF in particular, has recovered 12.8 million of a financial loss following the issuing of the material irregularity. But the key concern that we have with this process is that the MIs are increasing, which then indicates that the auditors or the accounting authorities and management are not dealing with the control deficiencies, are not dealing with the root causes as they are addressing these MIs. Hence, we see new MIs coming in, and some of them are due to similar control deficiencies. So we are urging the portfolio to address MIs and to get the support they can get in making sure that they close these MIs as soon as they can, so that they also prevent their losses. Then this is just the detail of these MIs that I'm referring to. For the Department of Labor, we have one MI which came about because of the SEP licenses that were not utilized. Some were underutilized. Where we are with the MI is that we received a response, we assessed, however, we concluded that the actions that are being taken are not addressing the MI in totality. Therefore, we have included recommendations in the audit report of the 23-24 financial year. Compensation fund, we have an old MI that is coming from 2021 relating to interest that was accrued on late payments of invoices. The fund has taken action. The only action that is outstanding now is the recovery of the money that was paid, and the fund has instructed the state attorney to recover the funds on their behalf. So that's where the MI is. That also as well is been on the system for long. So this CF as well as all the structures that are involved need to just make sure that we close that matter and recover the funds. Then the 3 MIs for the compensation fund that were issued in the current year in April related to loss of revenue, where there was a duplicate account that was opened for an employer, resulting in an employer being charged a lesser amount than what they were supposed to be charged. Then the 2 relate to benefit payments, where banking details were fraudulently changed and the money was lost. Basically, it reached a wrong recipient. It is similar to the issue I highlighted when I was doing the key messaging on the compensation fund. Then the second one, we had instances where the invoices were intercepted, meaning there was a valid invoice that was submitted by a valid MSP, but they were intercepted, resulting in fraudulent invoices being added and paid by the fund. So for the 2 MIs, we have included recommendations in the audit report as well for the 22-23, because there was no response that was received. So we don't know what action is being taken to address the MIs. For the third one, though, we did receive a response. However, the actions were not adequate. We asked for additional information, which we did not get from the accounting authority. Hence, we are then escalating the matter so that we can determine the next action that will be taken. For the UIF, we have 3 MIs which relate to TERS, all of them, from payments that were made to deceased individuals. Others were made to beneficiaries who were receiving other government benefits, therefore did not qualify. And the third one was on overpayments that were made during that time of COVID. So again, here we've requested additional information based on the response that we've received. Therefore, we are waiting for that information so that we can determine whether the steps that are being taken will address the MIs. The next few slides, Chair, I will just highlight briefly the key recommendations that we've been making to the different platforms. We've made recommendations to the accounting officers and accounting authorities relating to the controls within the CF, relating to the investigations of instances of irregular, as well as the material irregularities, as well as the non-compliance that is happening there. I will then move to this slide. This slide, Chair, I will not take much time on it. It was presented in our last meeting, and basically it highlights the key MTSF targets that were not met. I think the key message to take away from this is that there must be focus and intention. The department needs to be intentional about how they monitor the achievements against these MTSF targets within the portfolio as well. Just moving to the next slide now, which is the ICT. I think I did touch on it briefly to say within the portfolio, our concern is not only the financial data or the performance information, it's also on ICT, because the auditors are very dependent on ICT. They are highly automated processes. Users like your beneficiaries or your citizens use these systems, and the funds use this system. Therefore, it is important to pay attention to this area as well. We have been reporting findings over the years. These are repeat findings, all of them. There's nothing new in the current year. There's also slow implementation there. And these findings range basically from the IT governance, which also then led to the MI that I highlighted for the department, where licenses were not utilized. We have issues regarding security management. As we can see already at compensation fund, there are instances where banking details are just changed. So meaning that the controls are not working properly in that area as well. We also have issues regarding user account management. There's also concerns regarding the service continuity, meaning there's no disaster recovery plan that was tested to make sure that in a case where there's a problem with the systems, the data will be able to, the funds or the department will be able to recover their data and be able to continue to work. And the main thing that is coming out of this is the financial losses that we are seeing. We are seeing these cyber attacks. We are also seeing all these fraudulent activities taking place, especially in the CF platform, ICT platform. Then we are recommending that there must be urgent attention that is given to all these areas that we've highlighted here, so that we stop the losses and we make sure that the systems that are meant to assist the funds as well as the beneficiaries or the citizens actually functioning at all times. The graph on the left of the screen is just to highlight the project. This is a key project for the portfolio because it was meant to assist not only the department, but also the CF and the UIF in terms of addressing some of the issues they're experiencing when it comes to the systems. But what we are highlighting is that this project was actually meant to take 3 years, but now it's been about 7 or more years. The systems are still not in place to assist with addressing all these things that they were meant to address 7 years ago. So that project has still not been finalized. We are seeing extensions upon extensions in that regard. I will then just move into the recommendations that we had also made here, which are quite similar to what I've touched on, so I will not go into detail, but in the final analysis, we are just highlighting that there is really an urgent need for the portfolio to review the control environment, to instill a culture that will ensure good performance in all areas and reliability of reporting as well, and to make sure that there's consequences where there is non-performance, because that will encourage people to actually take these control deficiencies seriously and to actually implement the controls that have been put in place. Because in other instances, we are noticing that the controls are designed, but they are just not being implemented. And when I close this section, I will just touch then on the key message that we want to communicate. Based on everything that we've said since morning, we are just, if there is anything to take away, is this point to say, 1, there's urgent need to attend and follow up on this IT project that has been outstanding for many years, with additional costs being incurred every year. Secondly, when it comes to the compensation fund, the approach that needs to be followed needs to be one that is dealing with the total breakdown that we're seeing in the control environment, not to try and address the audit opinion, not to try and address the audit findings, but to review the whole environment to make sure that from the base, everything is working and we are stopping all these fraudulent activities that are taking place in the background. In terms of the submission of the financial statements as well, there needs to be just monitoring to ensure that the UIF and the CF are supported and held accountable to make sure that they are able to submit reliable financial statements when they are due. Then in terms of the structure, we are also recommending that there is a need just to review the governance structure by the committee, just to determine whether indeed the current structure as it stands is effectively facilitating the attainment of the mandates of these entities, because we know that these entities are not functioning like any other Section 3A entities, where they will have their own board, their own accountability structures. Then we're also asking that when it comes to the MIs and all the investigations that are there, be it is for fruitless or wasteful expenditure or irregular, there needs to be steps that are taken to make sure that these investigations are started and finalized and action is taken. Where there are recommendations, those recommendations need to be implemented. Then we need to monitor closely the MIs to make sure that they are closed. That will also assist with the improvement of the control environment. And then again, we are still making the same recommendation with regards to the performance agreements, which I touched on when I was highlighting the previous year's recommendations, to say to encourage and to enforce the implementation of controls. The performance agreements of key officials need to be aligned to the requirements of the adequate control environment, so that people are actually responsible for the implementation of those controls and they are measured against that. In closing, Chair, I will just touch on the audit outcomes of Productivity SA. Productivity SA is part of the portfolio. However, it is not audited by us in line with Section 4.3 of the PAA, which gives us an option not to audit certain auditees. However, we still provide some oversight and some assistance to the auditors that are auditing Productivity SA. Their audit outcomes as well have remained stagnant as unqualified with findings. We did note an improvement this year where their financial statements not have material misstatements. So the reason for the yellow color in the current year is basically not the financial statements, it's more on the compliance side. On performance, they also did very well because there were no findings. Actually, over the years, they haven't had any material misstatements in the annual performance report. So what this then tells us is that if they were to address just this in the area of compliance, they can easily move to the green with CCMA and NEDLEC. And their main concern this year that we had was relating to the expenditure management, where they incurred irregular expenditure and fruitless and wasteful expenditure. So they need to make sure they prevent those. And once they get that right, we will see a better outcome for the entity. I will stop here, Chair, and hand over to Zama. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I think we've run out of time. So basically, that's just the audit outcomes, Chair, of the portfolio, but with the main focus on the compensation fund and the Department of Employment and Labor. So without me, taking more time, I'll just hand over back to yourself, Chair, for any discussion points with the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Once again, this cluster is seeing a department with its entities not coming to the party. As a returning member, I understand fully where the AG is coming from, because year after year after year, the same things are spoken to, and absolutely nothing is being done. And it is really time that we as a select committee sit down and I don't want to use the word investigate, but I'm going to use it, that we start investigating diligently what is going on within the entities and the department itself. We cannot year after year see the same things being brought to the table and absolutely nothing being done about it. Especially in light of the UIF, it's not their funds, it's funds that belong to the people that have contributed. I, on a daily basis, receive complaints from people saying that they have contributed, but they are struggling to get any feedback or acknowledgement of their claims. And then the same goes for the Supported Employment Enterprises entity. It was established to look after people with disabilities, but it is not functioning the way it should function. And I just want to say thank you to the AG's office for providing us with a full background within very limited time on what is going on. Members, you've been given a brief. You've been given the information prior to the AG presenting. And I'm going to hand over now to anyone that would like to ask a question. So could I just have hands up, please? So far, there are 4 hands. Okay, if I can start, Honourable Sithole.
Okay, no, thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to honorable members and the office of the AG. Mine are just a few questions, Chairperson. On the recommendation for all the entities, it does not address remedial action to improve and the audit outcome of all the entities. There is no long-term plan to improve the accounting system for the next 5 years. Now, my suggestion, Chair, is that we need to have an intensive oversight program to all these entities and very soon, because by the end of November, Parliament will rise to be followed by the State of the Nation address, followed by the budget presentation and the departmental budget, meaning that the only time we are going to interact with these entities, it will be May next year. And seeing what the report is saying will be very late. Now, the question that I will ask, especially on the page 15, 16, or the slide 15, 16, and 17, how does the department intend to deal with entities where they are not implementing consequence management? And then again, the URF financial statement were submitted on the 31st August 2024. My question is that, is this date right or late? And if it's late, my question will be why? Again, it says that it is anticipated that the financial statement will be signed off on the 30th November 2024. Now, is this date realistic with seeing that now we are less than 45 days, which is left? Now, on the issues of the root cause, who is encouraging this tolerance of non-compliance and the lack of consequence management? Now I'm talking about the issue of line of accountability. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Sithole. Just to give you some background, just remember the AG is giving us information with regard to what they have found. The questions on why the budget was submitted late, etc., we are not engaging with the department today, unfortunately, but those are the type of questions that must be sent to the department. The AG is here just for clarity-seeking questions. So, Honourable Sithole, if you can also just make note of that, I am sure the AG will give a response to that, but if you could put it in writing so that the department can respond to you. All right, the next one is Honourable Farmer.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to you and all the honourable members and the AG's office. Chairperson, I have a proposal to make. But before I do that, I need a question to be answered quickly. During all these years or times that they've picked up these problems with these entities, was there a change of management during that time so that new management came in and they just continue with the practice? Or is it the same management team that's been from the start right up until now? Because it will the answer to this will obviously influence my proposal, because not proposal, my recommendation, Chair, would be that we urgently need to see the minister. We need to propose to the minister and to this department that these entities need to be cleaned out, but whoever's working there. Because for me, there's two issues here. One, the chowing of the money in the past, and then the going forward from here is two parts. So we need to get an investigation going, even if it needs us to have a special investigative unit being put together for this purpose. And then we need to bring in interim, I nearly call them fixers, but interim high profile people that can rectify everything that went wrong, like your IT and your and whatever is needed to get these entities on the right path again going forward, so that when whatever and whoever is found guilty, the money needs to be recouped, whatever amount we still can recoup. So based on whether or not it was the same people in charge or a new team coming in and they continued with the practice, this needs to be stopped, because it seems as if these entities are milking cows and someone somewhere is eating. And we need to stop this. Or at the very least, we need to get them on the clean and narrow path. Thank you, Chair.
Honourable Farmer, thank you very much for that. If I may just come in again, according to our programme, on the 30th of October, the Minister will be briefing the committee in respect of the late tabling of the UIF report, and the compensation fund will also be briefing the committee on their annual report. So before the end of the year, we will be engaging with them, and the Department of Employment and Labour will be with us on the 6th of November. I completely understand your frustration and the issue with regard to this department just carrying on as it has been done. So to answer your question with regard to management change, I cannot answer that because the department is not here. The only thing that I am aware of is that the ministers changed. In the previous years, we had Tulas and Nexi, and now we have Honourable Meth. So, Honourable Farmer, I hope that answers your question with regard to engaging the department with its separate entities, because it is important that this department be taken to task. Okay, the next one is Honourable van den Berg.
Thank you. Morning to all. Chair, I would like to know from the AG if they have made criminal charges relating to all these MIs that they have identified. Now, clearly we can see there is no appetite from the departments to self-correct. I would like to know from the AG what would be the way forward in a worst-case scenario from their point of view. How the AG, what tools the AG does have to take on a situation like this, where you have if I can describe it as a rogue department pertaining to especially the compensation fund. Then also, we might think of making a call to the minister or the president for this board to be dissolved. We will recall that the SA Tourism Board has been resolved and reformulated, And I am sure that the same could happen in this case. Maybe if the AG can advise us regarding that, it would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable van der Berg. Honourable Pienaar.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Madam Chairperson, I think we should also have it noted and congratulate the CCMA and NEDLAC for their clean audits. I think that's an excellent example to set for other state organizations, state entities. Madam Chairperson, and let me then go into the questions I have, and with them some concerns. Chairperson, with regards to the UIF submitting their financials, I want to hear from the AG. Obviously, as they were supposed to be submit their stuff on the 31st of May, and it was only submitted on the 31st of August. What reasons did they give to the AG's office? Because obviously between May and August, there had to be communication from the AG's office concerning these financial figures, and what reasons were given to the AG. I just want some clarity on that. And then, Madam Chair, I would like to go a step further. I think we're all thinking about ways to turn this around, and some examples were given of holding them accountable, dissolving the boards. But Madam Chair, I think we should go further. When they do come and appear before us to give us reasons with regards to the UIF and the compensation fund, they should give us an action plan together with the minister. And based on that action plan given, when they do come to see us, we as a committee should decide if we are satisfied with the action plan. And if we are not satisfied, Madam Chair, I think we should consider, and I hope us, some of the administration staff can assist us here, we should consider putting those two departments under administration. I don't know if we have that kind of authority, but I'm sure we can always pressurize the minister from our side, and with the report that the AG has given, I'm very sure they would support our request as well. So we put the UIF and the compensation, but under administration, and I think that would be a good start to hold them accountable. And I would like to hear the AG side or opinion on that as well with regards to putting them under administration. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Pienaar. Sorry. Honourable Mabilu.
Good morning, Honourable Chairperson and members on the platform, the Office of the AG. There's no doubt in my mind that the picture that was sketched by the AGO is scary, is depressing, and is of great concern. The problems, as highlighted in my view, run deep. So therefore, AG's office, I would like to get clarity on the following. What elucidation was given for the disclaimer for 13 years in conservative terms? What plausible explanation was given by the relevant entity for such a state of affairs? Secondly, AGO's office, the underspending on the compensation fund. In your own investigation, what was the implication for the beneficiaries? Because obviously they will be at any receiving end, they will be compromised. And then the same will go with the root causes of 33% underspending. Is one of the problems in your finding due to a lack of capacity on the people employed to do their work? Or is it sheer indifference? Or is sheer incompetence? And lastly, what explanation was given for all the state of affairs by the DG as an accounting officer with regard to the department and the relevant authorities in terms of the entities? I think lastly, I support my colleagues who gave thumbs up for the two entities that have turned the corner and came up with clean audits. We've got to compliment them. But this department and its entities remains an important instrument in terms of the skills development, the UIF, and all those other things, job creation and compensation. Therefore, I support the view of the colleagues that says this department cannot be left in the state of affairs it is. There must be a turnaround. And surely I agree that we must engage the minister and the deputy minister in relation to this affairs, but we need to come and grill the department. I know here we are not going into details because of the department is not here. We are just getting elucidation and explanation from the AGO's office, AG's office. But I think the department must come and account. And I support the colleagues that says that the law enforcement agencies must be involved. There's no doubt there's a syndicate operating in this department. How can we have the state of affairs on our watch? That is not going to happen. With the pressing needs of the country, people are poor, people are not compensated on time. We also have to ask them and investigate whether there is collusion between the employers and some officials, because here the employers have not been coming to the party, some of them. So in future, AG, we will request that we must get a list of all those employers who are at the wrong side of affairs, not contributing positively or understating what they are supposed to contribute. At the receiving end are the workers, thank you, and the unemployed, those who are supposed to benefit. But the state of affairs is totally unacceptable. It stinks, to say the worst. Thanks, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mabilo. As I said in the beginning, the AG has given us some brilliant pointers, and seeing that we are engaging with the department and some of its entities, you must come fully prepared to those meetings. As Honorable Mabilo said, we have to grill them. Before I hand over to the AG's to the AG, could I just ask, I see Honorable Farmer, Honorable van der Berg, and Honorable Nick Pienaar's hands are still up. Are they legacy hands? And I see, all right, there it goes. Honorable Mabilo and Honorable Farmer, do you still have questions that you wish to raise? If so, Honorable Farmer, carry on.
Chairperson, sorry, I've just raised my hand to determine whether or not you will need to make absolutely sure that when we see the minister and those entities, that the AG's office is also in attendance then. Please.
Honorable Farmer, I hear what you say. The AG is here. I have no idea what their program looks like, so they will have to answer that. I cannot make them come to a meeting, so I'll leave that in their hands to give us a briefing on that. And then Honorable Mabilo, I see your hand is up again. All right, he's not responding, so that must be a legacy hand. AG, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you very much to the honourable members for the comments and the questions. Chair, maybe starting off with the last point that was raised, with regards to our availability. We always strive to be available as and when requested. If the committee would want us to be part of the discussions with the department or in the entities, we'll certainly make ourselves available. Someone within the team would be able to attend the session. If we can just get a confirmation of when through your office, Chair, then we'll definitely make somebody available. So that's just starting with the first point. Now with some of the questions, Chair, starting with maybe what the comments, the questions that would have been raised by Honorable Sithole. Noting even your comment after she raised her questions, I feel like they are very important questions, but I think it would be have greater impact if they're actually posed to the department in terms of, because the first one was talking to, based on the information that we have submitted, shared in slides 15, 16, 17, how is the department intending on dealing with the entities that are not doing the consequence management? I think it is a very important question to actually pose on the department so that you can be able to assess whether they actually have intentions of addressing the areas that would have been raised by the AG, and if so that you can actually make a call of whether that is adequate is enough. Also on the point of, in terms of who is actually encouraging this non-compliance that we're seeing in the department or in the portfolio, I think it's important that when you have that engagement with the department, we can actually get a sense so that you can get to the root cause or where accountability needs to take place. But the question that Honorable Sithole did ask specifically to us is the UIF submission date, whether it is correct in that, yes, they submitted on the 31st of, they submitted in the end of August, and that is not, hence we are saying that the UIF is late. They were meant to have submitted their financial statements at the end of May, but they did not submit their financial statements at the end of May. They only submitted at the end of August. And once we have received the financial statements, we then start with the audit process. Hence, we committed that we're going to be finalizing the audit in November. So there was also a question about the fact that is it realistic to expect that the audit is signed off in November? Based on our planning and how far we are in the process, we feel like it is realistic that we'll be able to finalize the audit in November. Because mainly from our side, it's important that once we have the financial statements, we get to the process of actually doing the audit, call it as fast as possible, so that the relevant accountability processes can actually start to happen. Once we finalize the audit, then the tabling and then the accountability processes can take place. So we always strive to make sure that as soon as we get the financial statements for audit, we finalize as soon as possible, because our audit is mainly to capacitate the oversight structure so that the accountability processes can take place. You'd recall, Claire, that when we last engaged yourselves, we actually had indicated that the UIF and the CF, this thing of them not submitting their financial statements on time, well, CF in the past, it always resulted in them missing the accountability processes, because by the time that they finalize they submit the financial statements and you finalize the audits, the different accountability processes, whether it be the parliamentary sittings, would have actually already taken place, and they end up, falling under the radar, which is not necessarily the intention. Hence, it's important that when they do submit the financial statements and we finalize the audit and they table, it's important that the relevant accountability processes, oversight structures, they happen so that they are still held accountable, even if it's not within the same period as with the other entities. So that's with the UIF. There's also another question, if I just wanted to touch on also on the UIF, or the reason that they would have been giving us. It was asked by Honorable Pinar in terms of the reasons why they are submitting late. Look, the explanations that the UIF would be giving in terms of them not submitting their financial statements is the ripple effect of them submitting their previous financial statements late. So if they submitted the 22-23 financial statements late, the audit would be finalized late, and then they would then be saying that actually they don't have enough time to now deal with the areas that we would have raised, so they need a bit more time. So it is that ripple effect of at some point not doing what they meant to have done in terms of making sure that their financial statements are completed and submitted on time. So the ripple effect of them not submitting at a certain period, it then results in them, whenever we finalize the audit, then they say, no, actually we need more time to deal with the areas that you would have raised, and then it just has that ripple effect. So the explanation that would have been given for the late submission of the 23-24 financial statements is that they needed to attend to the previous year audit findings that we would have raised so that they can be able to address them. So that's what would have been their explanation. So that is addressing what would have been raised by Honorable Sithole. Honorable Farmer asked if there has been changes in management during the time of issuing these findings, or is it the same people? It's a combination of both, Honorable Farmer. You'd note that at the compensation fund, especially the compensation fund, is that there hasn't really been much stability when it comes to leadership. Currently, even now, there is an acting commissioner. So there has been changes that have taken place, and there has been those members of the executive leadership who have been consistently been there throughout the this period that you would say they have been receiving disclaimers. So it's a combination of both. So it's a matter of it's the same. We've been communicating the same things to the same people, or the people that come in and I guess follow the same process that is being followed by the rest of the people, because when someone comes in, it doesn't really result in a change in the institution. Hence, I'm saying it's a combination of both. Honorable van der Berg asked in terms of if we've made any criminal charges on what we have identified. So I think it would just I guess be important to understand in terms of where our mandate. We don't have the mandate to lay any criminal charges, but what we do then is that we follow the MI process in terms of up to the point of requesting that there be thorough investigations, that recommending that there be thorough investigations. And when there's criminality that is identified based on those investigations, then the relevant bodies would then need to be roped in, whether it be your SAPS or the different investigation and investigative bodies. So I guess it's a collective effort, but from our side, within just the Auditor-General, we don't really have the ability to lay any criminal charges or charge anybody. But I think we follow that process, and we have been communicating and recommending that hence we have that MI process. You recall that the MI process even goes to the stage of up to the point of actually getting a certificate of debt if the accounting authority is not necessarily addressing the areas that we would have raised. So we'll be following that process. But then also even within that process, once the instances of criminality have been identified, then the relevant bodies would then need to be roped in, so that they, within their mandate, are actually able to lay the criminal charges and follow the process as it is. So that's basically what we even propose, because there was even a question in terms of what do we propose in terms of the way forward now that we've identified what we've identified. We always emphasize the importance of now that we have identified certain instances, that they be followed through in terms of the different accountability bodies, instigating that there would be investigations that happen. Once the investigations happen and there's criminality that has been identified, then the relevant legislative processes need to follow, so that everybody is basically, ultimately, what we want to see is that accountability happens throughout the organization, to the lowest of level, if it has been identified that there's criminality that has been identified. There was points in terms of resolving the board. I think two members actually touched on that. So I just wanted to clarify just specifically on the entities that we're looking at, whether we're talking about the compensation fund or the UIF, that they actually they don't have a board. The structure of the entities is that the accounting authority would be the DG. So it would be the DG of the department, then the entity. So there isn't really a board in those entities that we were talking about now, just in terms of understanding the structure. But when we're talking about that, maybe I just wanted to highlight one of the recommendations that we've made yourself as the committee. We've also made the same recommendation to the portfolio committee in terms of just looking at the need. One of the recommendations in slide 26, where we're saying that there's a need for the government structures governance structures at the UIF and CS to be reconsidered to determine whether the current structure is effectively facilitating the attainment of the mandate of these entities. So, you know, it's one of the areas that we feel maybe there's a need to actually look at and seeing is the current structure that they currently have, is it serving them to be able to read to meet their mandate? Because of the fact that they actually don't even have a board, it's just a matter of the accounting authority yeah, it's just the accounting authority, which is one person. So that's what we had actually recommended to the committee, that just looking at to see if it actually is a right structure and if it's serving what we actually wanting to see in those two entities. So that's that on the structure, and I just wanted to clarify because I saw that there's two members that actually spoke about the resolving of the board. But you know, speaking on that as well, because there was also a comment from two members relating to putting the entities under administration. Look, that is, I guess, part of the your oversight responsibilities in terms of determining how do you turn around the entities. So it's not really something that we, as an office, would actually be call it a recommending, but we always, there was a comment like this when we had an engagement with the portfolio committee, which is regard, I guess it was also part of the same thing that you would be doing as a committee in looking at how do we best now, as from your level, look at how do you actually assist the entities in turning the situation around. And one of the, you know, the members would have actually suggested that maybe they should also consider looking at putting the entities under administration. So I think it's something that I guess the committees would have a discussion. But what we had not cautioned, but you know, communicated to the committee is just that there needs to be a very clear, if the committee would be proposing that, then it would be quite clear process and plan in terms of what you're wanting to achieve in terms of administration. Because, you know, when we were engaging the portfolio committee, we spoke about the fact that, you know, we've seen a lot of seen instances where an entity would be put under administration and they actually come off worse off. So I think it would be important that there would be that very detailed plan in terms of what are we wanting to achieve. And are we seeing that putting them under the administration is actually going to get that desired output, and then that, you know, a deliberate decision and not just necessarily just putting it blankly and saying that putting them administration, but there be like a proper plan so that we see the turnaround in the institution, and that the institution doesn't actually come off worse off from the administration purposes. But again, it's something that it would be a discussion amongst the different committees or the different government structures, so that there'd be a proper plan in terms of what we would want to ultimately see is that there's a proper plan in turning around the institutions in whatever form that plan comes in. So that's just that with regards to the administration. So I think I would have covered the points from Honorable van der Berg, even the points coming from Honorable Binar, and then Honorable Mabilo. The explanations that we would have been receiving on the disclaimer of opinion over the years, I think the key thing to highlight here is firstly what I indicated in that there's been changes in leadership a lot with regards to even at DG level, and there has been changes in terms of the accountability structures within the institutions, and when we always raise that as a risk in that if there is such a high turnover when it comes to leadership, then accountability becomes a problem, because no one would really take accountability for something that they're just taking over. So it has been that cycle in the CF. But in terms of, hence we get up to a point of we talk about consequence management a lot in the institution, a lack of consequence management and also a lack of accountability, because no one really takes accountability for what has been happening. It has just been, it would seem as if the entity has just become accustomed to that, okay, AG is going to come, They're going to raise the findings, give us a disclaimer, and then we move, and without actually having a step back to see, okay, this is what has been raised. How do we now turn around the situation? They haven't really been forthcoming when it comes to that. I guess hence even we came to the point of actually even changing our approach and looking at the deeper root causes. Hence, we were able to identify even the fraud areas that we have identified, and seeing how do we now, using our, call it our expanded mandate in terms of enforcement, how do we get to a point of at least from what we would have identified, making sure that we enforce the consequence management by making sure that disciplinary action is taking place, investigations happen, disciplinary action is taking place, and that the funds that would have been lost by the institution are actually ultimately recovered. So it's a slow process, because you have seen from the presentation from Bulelwa that there is quite a slow pace in actually attending to the material irregularities. And I think some we have not even received. We would have struggled to receive responses from the accounting authority, which is the DG, or in some way we haven't even received the responses, which speaks to the pace in dealing what we would have raised. But I think that's what we would have been doing from our side, based on the fact that we're not really seeing any traction from what we've been raising over the years. Implications to the beneficiaries, which is, I think, is something that's quite an important point that was raised by Mr. Mabila, and we would have mentioned it in one of the slides where we talk about the impact, whether we're talking about the spending or whatever it is that we are picking up when it comes to the compensation fund. The implications of it is that the beneficiaries are not getting what is due to them, whether they be delays or ultimately they're not necessarily getting the necessary payments. Just using as an example of what we would have uncovered, in that there were changes in in bank accounts. So a beneficiary would have made a claim, and then when payment is being made, a bank account is changed. That would then indicate, in as much as the CF would have made a payment to that particular bank account, fraudulent bank account, but the beneficiary, which is someone who is, to use an example, someone who's sitting at home and injured and unable to work and would be benefiting from the compensation fund, is actually not getting that. And the funds that is due to them, which is the unfortunate. So I guess it speaks to, ultimately when you're looking at these entities, the impact of everything that is happening in the institution is that ultimately it has that direct impact on the South African citizens that are actually in need of the funding from these institutions, because the implication is that money is not getting to them, or it's not getting to them at the pace that is needed because of whatever is happening in the institutions. So I think what you mentioned, so it's quite important, and we are seeing that, and we have actually been noting that that is the implication to the beneficiaries. And then when it comes to the root causes, look, in terms of, we don't really make an assessment in terms of the competence of the individuals, or we speak to understanding or disregard. But what we can speak to, you'd recall that even when I spoke earlier on in the previous session, when I spoke about the compensation and fund, I used the word that there is a breakdown of internal controls within the institution and a heightened risk of fraud. A total disregard for internal controls in the institution. So in a lot of instances that we are picking up, I wouldn't talk about competence, but I would be talking about disregard for internal controls by the officials in the institution, not necessarily having an appetite to turn around the institution. And like we indicated, if there's a heightened risk of fraud in the institution, obviously there would be, call it, more appetite to not turn around the situation than fix the internal controls, because once the internal controls are actually fixed, then there wouldn't be much opportunity or room to actually perform the fraudulent activities that would be allegedly taking place in the institution. So what we have been seeing is just the disregard to actually implement a lot of the recommendations that we have been putting through, but then also just not necessarily having an appetite to change the internal controls in the institutions so that we can see a turnaround in the institution. So yeah, Chair, so I think that would be speaking mostly on the compensation fund, Chair, and really the need for a turnaround plan for the institution, so that we can see how as the different governance structures we can actually, because ultimately the impact is on the South African citizens, which is unfortunate. And yeah, I'll leave it there, Chairperson. I'm hoping that I would have covered all the questions. If not, can I just get an indication? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Zama-Hlelo, for a comprehensive response. I really think you covered all the questions that were posed to you. And before we go off and excuse the AG, I'd just like my department, the secretary, to make note of sending a request to the AG's office to also attend the meeting when we get the briefing from the department on the 30th of October and going forward. It is absolutely pertinent that we have the AG at all our meetings going forward, because it is very, very helpful indeed. And then the second thing that I would like to raise is that, notwithstanding the fact that this department with its entities, excluding CCMA and NEDLAC, is in a dire state, I think with the change of ministries, we afford the new minister an opportunity to indicate to us how she plans on taking this department forward and what her plans will be, so that we can then interrogate her on that together with her DGs and her staff, and then also interrogate the various entities under this department. There's no way that we can go forward with year after year the entities and this department practically giving us a middle finger. And with regard to placing an entity or a department under administration, if my memory serves me correctly, in October last year, I recall business and employers requesting that the UIF be placed under administration, and to this date, I haven't seen any report in this regard indicating that such requests would be discussed and reported back on. So that is something that we will then, with our portfolio committee members, have a discussion. I have made note on that to see how the two houses can work in synergy with regard to this department. Because, as I said, and I reiterate it again, there is no way that the UIF and the compensation fund especially can carry on the way they are carrying on, because at the end of the day, it is the public out there that is suffering. It is their money that has to be paid out to them. And we know what happened with the TERS funds and all the other funds that the UIF had to pay out. There are still some employees from the department that are under investigation. So in light of that, I wish to thank the AG's office for a comprehensive report, and the Secretariat will be in contact with you with regard to your availability when we engage with the department on the 30th of October and with any other entity going forward in this year. So thank you very much again, AG, for enlightening us as to what is actually transpiring. And seeing that the next section of the discussions has nothing to do with you, you may be excused unless you have anything else that you would like to add.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity, Chair. If there's nothing else from us, then we would just request to be excused. We'll just await the invite, and we'll definitely make somebody available to attend the session.
Thank you very much. Then you are excused, AG.
Thank you very much, Chair. Have a lovely day, everybody.
Colleagues, whilst the AG is moving out of the platform, the next agenda item will be our oversight to the Free State with our sister committee. In light of where I currently stand, I think at this point in time, everybody knows that I have huge personal problems with my husband in hospital. I have been given leave to attend to him, and the fact that I had swine flu, I spoke to Mardia and requested that I also be excused from going on oversight so that we don't have a fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And because of this, I would like to hand over to my sister committee chair, Honorable Modise, because he will be chairing everything, my section and his section, because it's two different select committees that are going together to the Free State to take over and work through the program with you. And in light of this, I would then also just like to be excused so that I can get to hospital to be able to visit my husband again. Honorable Modise, I know you're online. Can I ask you to please take over in this regard? And before I hand over, the minutes that we were going to discuss will also be postponed, and it will be attended to during the meeting of the 30th of October. Thank you very much. Honorable Modise, the platform is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Chair, and best of luck with everything. I can only imagine the stress that you're going through. I'm sure all of us here are with you in thoughts and prayer, and hope and wish for the best. And you'll keep us updated, Chair.
Well, Modise, thank you very much for that. Yes, I will keep you updated, and enjoy your oversight trip. Bye-bye.
No, thank you, Chair. Thank you. Members and colleagues, I'm not sure the consideration of minutes have been deferred. According to the agenda before me, we were to have one briefing by Auditor-General, which we just had now, briefing on oversight program and logistical arrangements for the joint oversight visit to the Free State. I think that's the only one that is outstanding. I'm not sure if Mardia is back in the meeting, because I heard earlier that she had the problem with connectivity.
Hi, Chair, I am back. Hi, Chair, can you hear me?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much that you are here. Yeah, it just made my life much easier.
Thank you,
Can you
Chair.
take us through on the agenda item 2, because the agenda item 3 the chair has decided that it should be deferred. So we'll only deal with the item 2 because it's next week. The visit is taking place next week, and from today until the visit, we'll not have any meeting, unless, of course, there's an urgent need that might require us to convene virtually to deal with one or two things. But until then, I suppose we'll meet at the venue where we would be until the visit is done. So please take us through so that members can raise clarity-seeking questions, and then we'll conclude the meeting. Thanks. I'm handing over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm going to go through the oversight program for both committees, and then if then what we will do is that our committee assistant will just sorry, I'm just having challenges here. There we go. Can everyone see my screen, Chair?
Yes, I can see the screen. I'm sure
Okay.
everyone else can.
Chief. Okay, thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm supported by my co-committee secretary for the Select Committee on Agriculture, Mr. Oscar Bauer. I'm just going to go through the entire program, and then where possible afterwards, Mr. Bauer and the content advisors for both committees can also come in. And then after me, our committee assistant, Ms. Amanda Zindlani, will update members with regards to the logistical arrangements for the oversight visit. Okay, members, chairperson and members, as we indicated, as resolved by the committee, we will be departing on Sunday, the 20th of October for the Free State. Some members will be driving, but ultimately the idea is that we all meet at the OR Tambo Airport and then drive from there to the Free State. And then our program starts on Monday, the 21st of October. Members will where we're going to be based for the duration of the oversight will be in Clarence, which is the most central place for us to be based in order to get to all the sites we need to get to for the duration of the week. Our first meeting on Monday, the 21st of October, will be at the Dichlabeng Local Municipality Chamber in Bethlehem. There we're starting with a briefing by the Thabo Mofokeng District Municipality and its local municipalities. Thereafter, we will be receiving a briefing by the Free State Provincial Department of Economic Development, Small Business Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs, alongside its entities, the Free State Development Corporation and the Free State Gambling, Liquor and Tourism Authority. Then at 2 o'clock, our sister committee will commence its briefing also at the same venue, and that will be briefing by the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, and then also briefing by the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. And that concludes day one at 5 o'clock on the 21st of October. On the 22nd of October, that day is assigned to our sister committee, the Select Committee on Agriculture. There, the delegation will depart and will depart from the hotel to the Golden Gate Highlands National Park. There, they will be meeting with the Community Property Association together with the two departments. And then afterwards, there is a site visit in the afternoon to where the disputed land or co-management area is located. On Wednesday, the 23rd of October, the delegation will depart to the Golden Gate Highlands National Park, where the Select Committee on Agriculture will be receiving a briefing by the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. And then we have a session with our sister committee, the Department of Tourism, or our committee, because in fact, both committees, in terms of the portfolios of both committees, there are issues that actually affect both committees at the Golden Highlands National Park. The session on Wednesday, the 23rd of October, will conclude with a debriefing session of the Select Committee on Agriculture. On Thursday, the 24th of October, the delegation will depart to Harrismith, which is just over an hour away from Clarence, to the Maluti-Apofong Special Economic Zone, which is a project of the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. Thereafter, at 12 o'clock, the committee will be visiting a Department of Small Business Development project beneficiary of the Small Enterprise Finance Organization, just to establish the extent to which they've received assistance and follow-up care from the department and its entities. We conclude Thursday, the 24th of October, with a site visit to the Department of Employment and Labor Center in Bethlehem. And then on Friday, which is the last day of our program, we'll be going to the South African Post Office Regional Branch in Bethlehem and meeting with the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. And there we will be receiving a briefing on a number of issues, including the status of the Bethlehem SAPO branch, the services provided, the number of people that the branch services, challenges as a result of the closure of surrounding SAPO branches, and an update on a number of the operational SAPO offices in the Thabo Mofokeng district. Ideally speaking, if there's sufficient time, we hope to have a debriefing at the end of Friday. However, given traffic in Johannesburg, and given the limited flights on Friday, it's imperative that we leave Free State relatively early so that members can actually get their connecting flights back to their constituencies on Friday, the 25th of October. I'm not sure if my colleague, Mr. Bauer, wants to come in with any of the issues that I've raised, Chair.
Thank you, Maria. The only input I want to make is that on Tuesday, I have contacted the CPA, Mr. Matwang. He has given me the names of the people that will be part of the meeting. So that was the only outstanding issue, but we have made contact with them and they will be meeting us. Everything else, Maria's covered. Thank you.
I'm not sure if any of the content advisors want to come in. Kobus, Soludumo, Eric?
Nothing from my side, Nadia.
No, I'm perfectly fine so far. Just to confirm, the CPA, we were concerned whether there were splinter groups that have made the CPA management a bit unstable. It often happens that there's more than one group within a CPA, but this is not the case with the CPA. The individuals that ASCA is in contact with are the same individuals that have been the contact group for the CPA for years. So I'm happy that we are speaking to the correct people in the CPA. And in terms of the program, what we might just want to update, because Sandparks took a very long time. It took a month for them to respond to our questions. So where we have visit to site where disputed land / co-management area is located, we will just update that to co-management area. The reason why the claim hasn't been settled is not because there are any disputes. It is for the Commission on Restitution of Land Rights to explain to the committee and to the delegation why it has taken this long for the claim to be settled. There's no disputes around the land that is being claimed. The settlement is agreed to on paper. It's just not finalized. So it will simply be a visit to the site where the co-management of the reserve between the Sandparks management and the CPA would then include activities that the CPA would benefit from financially. So that is the only update that I have from my side, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Chair, thank you. Thank you. Just to add also, thank you, Corpus, just to add, from the side of our committee, as indicated, we've asked all our national departments to submit the information. They had a closing date of the 14th of October, and the bulk of our departments have actually submitted a lot of prep documents, that most of which we've already circulated to members. The only department that's outstanding is the Department of Tourism, but I have received the assurances that we should get that information today. So far, the departments of Trade and Industry, Small Business Development, Labour, and Communications and Digital Enterprises has submitted a lot of information with regards to the work that they do in the Free State province. And that information is meant to assist members just in preparation for the upcoming oversight visit. So that is from the side of the department. As indicated, I will distribute the information we receive from the Department of Tourism as soon as we receive it. If I can, at this stage, Chair, just hand over to our committee assistant, Ms. Amandla Zendlani, just to go over the logistical arrangements.
Thank you, Madia. Thank you, Chair. The staff funding application was approved yesterday. And I have just received the members' funding application about 3 minutes ago. It's also approved. I will then do POs/warrants so that I can send to the travel agent to book the flights and accommodation. In terms of accommodation, I was informed by the travel agent that the accommodation that we were quoted on, we will not be able to get rooms for everyone. I then requested the travel agent to make sure that all members are booked in that specific accommodation and then to find us an accommodation next to the members' accommodation. So far, I'm going to be doing warrants and then do the bookings today. And members will receive their information hopefully latest tomorrow. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, thank you, and thank you, Amanda. And then, Chair, just one more thing, and I'll be assisted by my colleague, Mr. Oscar Bauer, as far as this is concerned. From the side of committee section, as far as logistical arrangements is concerned, there are quite a number of members who are driving and meeting us at OR Tambo. I just want to say that when members submit their mileage claims, it's very important that the mileage claims that they submit are directly related to the oversight visit that we will be undertaking. So, as members are driving to the mileage claims have to be directly related to the oversight visit that we will be undertaking. And the other thing that we wanted to raise also is that any last minute changes has got financial implications that we require financial approval, and in some cases also require political approval. We're raising this right now because what tends to happen when we go on oversight is that we will receive last minute requests from members, and we just want to alert members that if there are any last minute requests, it has a massive implication, not just in terms of audit queries, but also in terms of the processes that needs to be followed. So we ask members to stick to the arrangements that were made, and as members has confirmed with us, because any arrangements outside of that puts us as officials and also puts Parliament in a very difficult position when it comes to audit outcome queries, Chair. The other thing that we wanted to also raise is that members will be receiving SNTs. The SNT is covered in such a way whereby members will receive money for lunch. We have not asked any of the municipalities or entities to make lunch arrangements for us, because in doing so, we're actually asking them to incur unauthorized expenditure. And as members know, many municipalities are already quite distressed, and we don't want to put that kind of financial or audit burden on them. We actually ask them to make arrangements for us as far as those kind of things is concerned. So we just thought, let's raise this upfront with members so that members are aware. Aska, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add?
No, Chair. I'm sorry, no, Maria, I'm covered. Yeah, I'm covered with the things that came up now recently. Just that what I wanted to say is sometimes members must also be cognizant of the fact that some of their requests needs a political approval. So it takes time. We need to write to the House Chair, and it takes time. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Chair. That concludes our inputs from our side, Chairperson.
No, thank you so much. Honorable members, is there anyone who wants to seek clarity? I see, okay, I don't know whether these are legacy hands, but I see Member van der Berg, I see Member Pina, and I see Member Farmer. I suppose these are brand new hands.
Yes, Chairperson.
Member van der Berg.
Brand new. Just one thing to arrange, and that is that as I stay in Kimberley, it's far closer, far nearer for me to simply drive to Clarence and then from Clarence back. So you must not arrange for me to find me in Johannesburg, because that would be a wasteful expenditure. I just need clarity if that will be in order.
Noted, Member Farmer. Member van der Berg. Member Pina.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, just a few quick things. You know, the devil is always in the detail. Now, it's all good and well. We will meet each other at 12 o'clock on Sunday at Ortambu, but where at Ortambu? We need the exact location, a restaurant, some landmark, because I don't want to get there on Sunday and we are struggling to find each other. We need an exact location, please. Where at Ortambu we'll be meeting each other, because that wasn't mentioned. I'm also one of those. I stay in Lepalale, so I'll be driving to Ortambu and leaving my car there for the oversight. And I would just like to request that she spoke about the travel claiming form, stuff like that. Please share that document so we know what document needs to be completed and where we need to send it to. I can just ask the committee secretary for that. Or do we? Yeah, that's also important. And then my last point of concern, Chairperson, and this is for me very important. If one car goes over 120 kilometers an hour, I will stop the vehicle and I will get out and you will have to arrange for me other transport. We are not the president. We are not in an emergency. We should not be driving recklessly. I see, luckily, we're not driving so much, so I appreciate the efficient planning that was done by the staff. But I want to make this very clear. If any car goes above 120 miles per hour, I will stop the vehicle and I will get out. I will not have my life put in danger because people are used to driving over the speed limit. We are not ambassadors. This is not an emergency. We will stick to the speed limit. And I hope I have the support of my committee members as well there. Besides from that, Chairperson, yeah, I think with regards to the layout, I see we're mostly traveling 30 kilometers or so, or 90 kilometers. I think that that's efficient use of our time. We're not spending the whole day on the road. So we can usually use this week to be really productive. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Member Pina. Member Farmer.
Chairperson, I guess you will have to arrange separate transport for Member Pinar. I'm not going to sit in a car driving the whole day like I'm carrying food.
Member Farmer, are you at Acacia Park?
No, I'm in Parliament at the moment.
Oh, your network is bad. And the last time I heard you was when you were saying something about Member Pina and the car.
No. Chairperson, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay. Chairperson, I raised my hand. I've been listening now to what Vadia and the other lady said, but I was kept on being cut off by calls that were made to this phone. And as a matter of fact, I couldn't not take those calls. So I've missed a number of important information, but I will take it up with them on the group or somewhere. But Chairperson, I saw on the program that we need to be in our Tambo at 12, and then we will leave the oversight on Friday afternoon to our Tambo. That means we'll have a late flight on Friday. I need to get to Cape Town International. From there, travel another 3 to 4 hours back home. Friday should not be on the program for work still. We should have just set Friday aside for traveling for the members to go home. So that for me is an issue with the logistics. Yeah, Chairperson, can you guys please assist? I will deal with you on the group with regards to the finer details that I've missed now because of course I'm getting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Farmer. Aska, Nadia, and yes.
Chairperson.
Yes, Chair, can we? Chair, maybe come in.
Let's ask our ladies first. Ask our ladies first.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for members for the questions, because I think it also assists us in explaining kind of how these things work. In terms of the drivers driving in excess of 100 kilometers, we just want to share this with members. There has been a new development in terms of the 7th Parliament. In the past, when committees used to conduct oversight, we used to utilize transport companies as we received quotes from the travel agent. In the 7th administration, a decision was taken that only protection service officers can actually drive members of parliament. So in terms of transport, what the arrangements that we've made is that we have hired vehicles, and the drivers of those vehicles will be parliamentary protection service officers who will actually be with us for the duration of the trip. In terms of vehicles, we've requested 3 vehicles for the delegation, and that those vehicles will drive in convoy. In terms of driving in excess, I can assure members that protection service officers will take those kind of things into consideration, and it's for exactly those reasons that we have protection service officers driving members of parliament, because there were a number of issues with accidents and those kind of things in previous administrations of parliament. In terms of the mileage claims, what we do is that we just ask members who are driving to just hold on to all their receipts and then submit their mileage claim forms to us. We will circulate the mileage claim forms, which needs to be signed by our unit managers, and then we attach the political approval, and thereafter the mileage claims are submitted to members' facilities, members' claims, so that those claims can actually be processed. In terms of flights, what we try to do as much as possible, obviously, we can't all arrive at the same time because members are driving and flying in from different places. But like I said, there are 3 vehicles. So what there's various options. What we could also do, for example, on Sunday is stagger the arrival. So those members arriving early can travel with 1 vehicle, and as the other members come, then those vehicles can go. And I suppose we'll explore the possibility of, we'll see what we can do in terms of Friday. Friday, as much as possible, we try to make sure that our program finishes for the latest by about 12 o'clock. So there's sufficient time to drive from Bethlehem to OR Tambo, and that members don't have to drive that much further in the evening. And as members will see, we also tried as much as possible on the day of arrival and departure, that we try as much as possible so that members are not driving in the evenings and they're actually driving while there's still daylight out. I'm not sure if there's anything else that Aska wanted to add.
Thanks, Marty. What I wanted to say, Chairperson, Mr. Pinar asked where we're meeting. I would say the meeting place would be as you come out of the domestic arrivals, where the chairs are. That's where we normally sit, and the staff sits and wait for the members to come out. We'll know who's coming, and we'll wait for the members. Obviously, the combis will be outside, directly outside. The question with regards to speed, I have been liaising with Head of Protection Services who arranged the drivers for us. I will send them an email with Mr. Pinard's concerns, and I will also ask them to relay this concerns to the provincial police, because if I'm not mistaken, Parliament has contacted the provincial traffic and SAPS in Gauteng and in Free State, because we will have a police escort. That happens on every oversight. So we will alert them also that to keep within the speed limits. And yeah, so I will send that email, and I will CC Chairperson on it so he knows that it's been done. Thank you. That's all from my side, Chair. Chairperson? Madi?
Mr. Modisi is still on the platform. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I think it's maybe his connection. Can all other members hear us?
We can hear clearly.
We can hear clearly, Mr. Mabilo. Yeah, we can hear clearly.
Mr. Pinar, are you satisfied with?
Thank you very much, sir. I greatly appreciate the feedback and
No
for the
problem.
clarity regarding the meeting space where we are meeting at our temple. Thank you.
Can I make a comment on the speed limits?
Okay. Sorry, Aska.
Yes, Chairperson.
Sorry, man. I have muted myself. Normally, I leave my mic on when I'm chairing meetings. I don't know how I muted myself.
No problem, Chair.
I was saying between you and Madia, please tell me who will be doing the briefings. Is it national or provincial government?
Okay,
Which
Mr.
Nadia,
Yeah, okay. From our side, Mr. Modisi, it's actually a combination because the thing is, we're going to provinces. As indicated, our national departments has already submitted a lot of information to assist members in terms of preparation. For example, on the first day, we'll be receiving briefings from the district and local municipality as well as the provincial department of economic development and its entities. And then when we go to the site visits, that is also where we will be engaging the national departments as well as the provincial departments on some of the issues. So I'm not sure if you're
The reason I'm asking Madia, the reason I'm asking this is because I don't want us to get there and the department, whether national or provincial, send some official to come and brief us. Officials don't account to us. Officials account to the political heads. Political heads account to us. I'm raising this that you go back to the colleagues that you are engaging with in both province and national, that in the instance where the minister is not available, we want the deputy minister on site. I'm not interested in the HOD or the DG. In the instance where the MEC is not available, they must then send an acting MEC. We don't want to be engaging. Otherwise, I'm going to tell them to go. There will be no presentation on their behalf. We're not going to be addressed by some PNO or some chief director there when there is no political head. Because this is their responsibility. And this is the opportunity for them to account. So please make it clear to them that we want politicians to be on site, to come and engage with us, to come and brief us. It's okay for them to bring the officials to do their presentation and whatnot. That is not a problem. But when we engage, we want responses from the political heads that have been given the task to drive a policy of the department into a particular direction. So just make that impression on them. And two, the issue of time, I'm very conscious with time. So all these times that we have allocated that will be here this time, there, that time, we should stick to those timelines. The timelines, sorry. So if we are saying we're leaving hotel at 8:30, it means exactly that at 8:30 we're leaving the hotel. Not that at 8:30 someone is still eating breakfast, we're waiting and so on and so forth. So I'm going to ask that all of us were disciplined when it comes to time, so that we're able to finish on Friday everything. And you made mention that ideally we should have a debriefing on Friday. If we do and stick to time, we'll be able to do the debriefing on Friday before members go home. Lastly, just like Member van der Berg, I would be driving from here to, what is this, in Clarence. So I will do like Member Pinar was asking, that we fill out that claim form and so on. That is not a crisis. But last, if you could organize that between you and Mr. Bauer or yourself, I don't know, both of you, could be at what's this thing, Tambo, maybe you arrive in Johannesburg on Saturday, we can speak to the political leadership if needs be, so that on Sunday, when members arrive at Tambo, like you did when we were coming to Cape Town for the very first time for some of us, there was that desk that was Parliament, as you come out of the what is this thing? I don't know what you call it, but as you come out from your luggage and what, you find that the direction was easy. Just look for parliamentary desk. Once you see it, you just go there and you'll be helped. Let's do the same at OR Tambo, so that at least it's easy for members not to be all over the show. Unless, of course, we agree that members, as you arrive at OR Tambo, just come straight to Intercontinental, because it's still within the vicinity of the OR Tambo. You don't even have to leave the airport or to go anywhere else. Just come to Intercontinental Hotel. You'll find us there by the reception area of the Continental. And those that arrive earlier, they will leave. And the next batch that comes later, the transport will be waiting for them. Just arrange those ones. And if needs be, tell us so that we can speak to the chair of chairs or chair of how do you call it, house chair. And we see that you and Mr. Bauer are able to be that side earlier, or if not, let's agree that our meeting post will be Intercontinental. It's right within the OR Tambo Airport, next to the statue of Mr. OR Tambo, just outside the airport. So those for me are important, especially the one for the politicians in the form of the ministry and the MECs in the provincial government. If it's a district, we'll appreciate if the district mayor is there. If not there, the district mayor can delegate one of the MMCs. If they've got a deputy mayor, the deputy mayor can come. We want to have politicians with us. We want to have people that we normally engage with in our meetings so that we don't find ourselves questioning people that says, hey, but I'm not a decision maker. I don't know. I was just told to come here and report. I cannot answer to your questions. Thanks.
Hi, Chair. Can I come in, Chair?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Chair, as far as the deputy ministers and the ministers attending, it's sometimes incredibly difficult to get deputy ministers and ministers to attend oversight visits. What we can possibly do is we can have a follow-up session after our oversight visit, wherein we invite the minister and the deputy minister just to brief us on some of the findings and recommendations and get inputs from the minister and deputy minister as far as the oversight issues are concerned. As far as the MECs, the executive mayors and the mayors, they have all been invited to our sessions. We've formally written to the MECs for both agriculture as well as for economic development in the Free State provincial departments. We've also invited the executive mayor for the Thabo Mofokeng district municipality, and we've also written to the mayors of all the local municipalities. As far as AGSA did indicate earlier on that officials will be at OR Tambo Airport to receive members. So officials will be there before members arrive. So we will definitely be there to make sure that, I think AGSA did mention that arrival section, AGSA, what was that section you were referring to earlier on?
As you come out of domestic arrivals, those chairs that are there, that is the normal waiting spot where we wait for members. The combis are immediately outside. So as members come, we just direct them to the combis. And like you said, we can come up with an arrangement that as soon as one combi is filled, off it goes. Over to you, Madi.
Yes, so Chair, that is just the issues that we wanted to raise. So as far as the provincial departments are concerned, like we said, we have invited the MECs, both MECs, to be part of our sessions, particularly our session on Monday, and then also the executive mayor. At this stage, and in our experiences with previous oversight visits as well, getting the mayors and ministers, and deputy ministers to attend oversight, it's incredibly difficult. As members know, sometimes we have challenges even with committee meetings of ministers and deputy ministers attending. It's usually the national department officials who attend, but what we can do to ensure...
Madia, I want you to play a devil's advocate. Don't advocate on behalf of the ministry. When we leave this meeting here now, the same process that you undertook right into the provincial leadership and the local leadership in terms of executive, do the same process. Write to Minister Pakstow, CC all, write to Minister Pakstow, write to Minister Small Development in Ndabeni, write to Minister Fisheries Gideon, all of those ministers, write to them. And in your letter, indicate to them that we are going to this oversight. We therefore request their presence, failing which they must send their deputy ministers. Just say that to them. Don't speak on their behalf. Just say that, because what has been happening previously and what is going to happen henceforth, we have agreed. Member Pinar is very passionate. He will tell you now. we have agreed that we're going to, the NCOP is going to be different from any other term that has been there before. So what we don't want to lock ourselves in a notion that for the longest time they have not been coming because it's difficult and so on and so forth. Just write to them and say to them, this is the decision of the committee. They would want you to be part of their oversight, failing which send your deputy and leave it at that.
Will
So
do,
that they
Chair.
don't say we never said anything to them.
Will do.
Thank you so much. Madia,
Yes, will do, Chair.
thank you so much. Is there any other issue? If you don't say it now, someone is going to die.
Yes, we've taken cognizance of yourself and Mr. van den Berg driving, so we understand that you'll be meeting us in Clarence, Chair. You and yourself and Mr. van den Berg, so we are aware of that.
Okay. Any other issue? Madia, do you have member farmers contact number?
Yes, Chair.
Please speak to member farm after this meeting around the issue of flight and all of that, because he says he has to drive another 4 hours from Cape Town International to home. Just check with him what is the best scenario that can be agreed upon between the two parties.
Will do, Chair.
Thank you so much. Is there any other issue, honorable members? My dear, according to our agenda, is there anything else that we are leaving except for the fact that minutes have been, the agreement is that the minutes will be deferred? There were 3 agenda items. One was the AG, 2 was the briefing on the state of readiness, 3 was the issues of minutes. Is there any other issue?
No, Chair.
None. Mr. Bauer, is there any issue?
No, Chair. I'm covered.
We're all covered. Honorable members, will I be correct to say the meeting is adjourned?
Yes, Chair, you are in order. We are covered.
Yes,
Thank
Chair.
you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very
So
much. Yes.
let's meet on
Thank you very
Sunday.
much,
Let's meet on Sunday.
Recording stopped.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye.
Bye.